Well, they reset the computer the other day.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you that, and so I've been going live on my restream,
gotcha.
but I fixed it, day one, and then today you logged in under your restream, and I had forgotten to tell you that you're gonna have to go in and reset all that. So
Yeah.
we had no sound for the first segment. We're sorry. You should have it now.
Okay, and and also we're not paying attention to the commercial break because that's my fault, right? So I'm gonna use it anyway. That's not only am I sick, I'm stupid. But the anyway, so
I'm not saying that.
yeah,
I did not say that.
right.
But we are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and X, I believe. My X, I believe.
Yeah.
And we are live from the Men's Health and Women's Wellness of Mississippi Studios. I was going to let you say it.
No, I'm not gonna say it. They're your sponsors. I'm the occasional guest host, so you got to say, like, Lindsay used to get mad at me. We're like, don't you remember how to say all this? I said, but now I don't have to remember that. You have to remember that, so I do not have to.
Look, I have no problem remembering Women's Wellness. They are a godsend. Go see them, guys. Go see them.
Yeah, and all kidding aside, I love Men's Health. I go there. I've been going there for even before I started on with Clay and then with you, and so they're a wonderful place. Get your testosterone checked. If you do, you can end up like Clay and Fred and be an extra.
Because you're so swole.
You're so swole that you're going to play a security detail in your late 40s.
Sean, why did they invite you to do this?
I don't know. I'm kind of mad,
They
actually.
probably didn't think so. Yeah, they didn't think you were a member of the 225 club.
I guess they didn't. They just screwed me on that one. So thanks, guys. But go to Men's Health and get yourself checked out, and go to Women's Wellness. Lindsay can talk to you all about that on her show.
Absolutely.
But we are going to continue talking about the Eddie Williams case of 2002. We went through a recap of the beginning of it in the last segment. That I'm sorry for the online audience, we had no sound for that. Lindsay, we were at the point where we're at Fenian's early morning hours of August 28th, 2002.
Yes.
And there is Matt Weghurst, James Mitchell, and Eddie Williams, and they're leaving. And Eddie is driving James's Porsche because James is apparently too drunk to drive. And James gets in Eddie's truck, which Matt's driving, and they're all going to head back to timeout, which is like the Cheers. Everybody meets up at timeout and hangs out.
Everybody knows your name.
It's kind of like my Martins, essentially. And it's that place for these folks.
So it seems like everybody really did know Eddie's name. I mean, we've talked to so many people that knew Eddie, and we have not heard one negative word come out of anyone's mouth about this man. He just seemed to be a friend to everyone. Obviously, he's a son, a brother, and seems like a really good friend to a lot of people.
Yeah, seemed like a wonderful guy, and seems we've got to, not that we know his family, but we've talked to them, and these are like great people that've had to endure this. I can't imagine what the feeling is of having to live when justice hasn't been served. I don't know that I could. I don't know how I would deal with that if it were like, I have a sister and that, but if that were the same situation, it'd be very difficult. And having prosecuted people for being kind of like the lead homicide prosecutor in Hinds County for so long, and it's seeing this families, what they go through, and even when they get justice, it still doesn't replace your loved one that's been killed.
Right, but to know that who did it is walking free.
Yeah,
that's
whoever did it, right?
Story.
Yeah, that's another thing entirely that you got to deal with. So our heart goes out to them for that, and that's a lot of reason we're doing this. So,
yeah, absolutely. Especially now that one of these guys has since passed, and we thought maybe this is a good time to kind of start a conversation back up, get some fresh eyes on this, and maybe people will be more willing to talk now that one of the suspects is deceased.
Right, exactly. And that's Matt Weghurst, who was killed in a DUI wreck in 2022.
Yeah, he was on a motorcycle.
And but here we go. So they were going back to timeout, and this is where the stories, and the reason we know this is because these are the statements of Matt Weghurst and James Mitchell in their later civil deposition. So that's what they say. They were going to go meet back at timeout. That's where everything gets different, Lindsay. And we get into just, I guess, different witnesses saying different things. And so, and you can go with this. So where do we got one witness that puts them where exactly instead of timeout?
On the road in front of her house, close to
Meadowwood Circle is actually right.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I think I can't remember the exact address, but yeah, this is close by where Eddie lives. I mean, within walking distance.
It's these condos, everything behind timeout that we were talking about, where everybody just kind of lives and works and goes drinks. That's kind of the thing. It's like a community.
Right. But then we have other people who say that Matt and James get back to timeout, and then they sit there and wait, but Eddie never shows up. Or that's their story.
Yeah, and there's 4 alibi affidavits that come out later in the case that by employees of timeout that say James and Matt were at timeout between about 1:20 in the morning to about 3:15 in the morning that night, which would contradict the witness who was out over behind timeout, living in a condo that Lindsay spoke to, and she'll get into that later, who gave a statement at the time that says that she identified those two working on a Porsche around 1:30 and 1:45. That's so what we're talking about. So if they left Fenian's at 1:15, they would have had to head straight to Meadowwood Circle and be there between 1:30 and 1:45 for this woman that Lindsay had talked to, and that the police talked to back then, to identify them working on that Porsche.
Right. And this happening 23 years ago, there's been lots of talk and lots of rumors, obviously, that circulate. And one thing that we've heard several people bring up is that there could have been something that happened at timeout, as if Eddie had gotten back there. We can't seem to figure out how there could have been time for that.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I've learned in these homicides is that a lot of stories pop up that can't ever be corroborated. And we heard that there was a bathroom incident and timeout. Looking at it the way we've looked at it, I mean, the time doesn't exist
unless we've got the times wrong and they lied about what time they left. I mean, that could be a possible scenario, but going off
but then you run into another problem though, right? I mean, because then no one in timeout ever says they saw Eddie.
Not that we've spoken to, no.
And yeah, nobody saw him there, and everybody knew him. It's not
after
like they missed him.
Fenian's,
right?
Yeah. We've talked to people who saw him earlier, but not at this later point in the night after midnight.
That's what I'm saying. So like nobody said they saw Eddie, who works at the bar, come back to the bar, and it seems like somebody would have said that. Yeah, it'd have been hard to miss that. Like Eddie shows up and you take him into the bathroom, beat him up. That's got to be loud, and then you bring him back up. He's all beaten up. No one saw that. Like, and so the time in that, it just doesn't really make sense. No. I'll let you go on. So where we are now, where there's a woman across the street with her nephew, who I talked to actually, that see these guys working on the Porsche. Right.
And she's pretty accurate on her timestamps, because there was a certain movie being released at Walmart, but it wasn't going to be released until midnight. So she's in her 20s. Her nephew is guessing he's a kid.
He was right out of high school.
Right out of high school. Okay.
I guess she was one of the younger sister, you have a younger sister kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm guessing.
And so you get this cool aunt.
Well, until you told me that, I was assuming in my head that she was older. Yeah.
No, she was in her 20s at this point, and she's got her nephew with her, and there's a movie they want that's coming out at midnight at Walmart. So she knows that they leave her house to go get this movie from Walmart a few minutes before midnight at the earliest. And so they get back to the house. They're watching this movie. Her nephew realizes he's forgotten that his clothes are in the car. He goes out to get his clothes, comes back in and tells his aunt, hey, there's a vehicle out here that's smoking. Yep. So she goes and looks. It looks like two guys working on a car. Now, of course, nobody would know this off the top of their head. At least I don't think a woman would. I didn't. But in a Porsche, the engine is in the back. Right. So these guys were at the front of the car, where she thought an engine would be under the hood. Now, I have spoken with her, and are you ready for me to go into?
Yeah, we'll get into that after some that's just describing. Okay. But yeah, that's going to get really interesting in part of it. So so that's what they said they saw. So an hour later, about after 3 a.m, this woman sees the car burst up.
She hears the explosion. Yeah, and she goes to look out her window and sees the car on fire.
And so then she goes and she calls 911. She tries to, I think, alert the neighbors that were close to the car. The car was parked in front of their house.
And at this time, she doesn't see the guys.
Right. She doesn't see them. Okay. And so while she does that, then all of a sudden, the guys show up again. And this is before the Jackson Police Department's ever there, or the Jackson Fire Department.
Right.
And who was the first one that shows up that she said? Was it James Mitchell?
Yeah, James Mitchell and Matt Weghurst.
Now, usually what happens in that exchange between her and him, according to what she said?
She said she let them know that she had seen them earlier, but she also said she doesn't realize there's a body in the car, number one. And she says her immediate thought was somebody has set this car on fire for insurance purposes, because she had seen them there.
Yeah.
And she said, why would you do that? She's kind of fussing at them. If you're going to do something stupid like that, you don't do it in a neighborhood where somebody could get hurt. Now, again, she still has no idea that somebody's burning in the car.
Right. and we haven't even got to that either. But yeah, so she just thinks there's a car burning out there, and she saw that these guys were the ones working on it like an hour or so earlier, and then they're back before the police department, the fire department even gets there.
Right, which is a very strange coincidence because they just happened to pull up on this before the police and the fire department. I mean, that's kind of hard to believe.
I think also in their depositions, they say that, well, we just decided at that point to go looking for Eddie. Well, so like you waited for 2 hours before you decided, let's go find our buddy all of a sudden.
And he's driving your Porsche that has your cell phone in it.
It's kind of strange. And but we'll get back to that on the next segment of the Clay Edwards Show, where we hope we'll fix these technical difficulties. We'll see y'all in a minute. And we're back on the Clay Edwards Show on this lovely Thursday in the Men's Health and Women's Wellness Studio. See, I told it.
Of Mississippi.
Of Mississippi. Of Mississippi. And
where beauty and wellness meet.
That's exactly right. And if you want to listen to more of that, Lindsay can describe that on her show today, again at 12, where she talks all about, whatever vitamins women take or whatever it is.
Oh
I don't have no idea. I just take the testosterone. Like, I have no idea.
We'll have former Representative Nick Bain on the show
Nick
today.
Will be on today. So you can get your political fill at 12 o'clock.
And he's a lawyer too, so you can get your lawyering in.
Let me guess, you guys can talk about school choice, right?
I don't know what we're going to talk about. You never know with us.
You never know
what direction it'll go.
Gotcha. So tune in to Lindsay's show at 12 o'clock today, and they'll get into all the local, statewide politics stuff that you guys' hearts desire. But right now we are talking about the 2002 murder of Eddie, the unsolved murder of Eddie Williams, by all accounts, a great guy that unfortunately was burned alive in a Porsche back in 2002. And where we are with that, we're talking about the scene of the crime, where we're back on what's called Meadowwood Circle, which is behind timeout, about 0.8 of a mile behind timeout. I actually mapped it out. And there's a woman out there who calls the police, and after she sees the Porsche on fire, and two men get there before the police ever do. And that, again, is James Mitchell and Matt Weghurst, the two gentlemen that were eventually charged in the crime. And they get out there. And what happens? What does she say to them? She says something to them, doesn't you? Were explaining to me last night when you actually talked to her. She spoke to one of them.
Yeah, she said, well, I saw you here earlier. And they did not know that she was watching them earlier.
According to her,
she said she went outside to smoke. She was sitting on the side of her house. It's real dark. And she said, I sat there watching them for about 15 minutes. Looked like they were kind of arguing maybe. She said, I watched, and she described Mitchell as shaggy. She said he had a very definite walk and something weird with the way he would do his shoulder and kind of a slight limp. She said she'd recognize him anywhere. She saw him very clearly.
Okay.
And
so she's saying she saw him twice, like first when working on the car like an hour before, and then
right before the cops and the fire department arrives.
How long was it before when Mitchell and Weghurst get there and the car's on fire that the cops arrived? Did that take a while, or did she explain that?
No, it was shortly after, but they were there first.
They were there before you saw any lights or anything like that.
Right.
Gotcha.
Because she was wondering how
did they get there?
And in fact, she said, I started to wonder if they ever even left because it was so close. I mean, it was walking distance to timeout, basically. But she said, I don't know if they just went around the corner. She's not sure.
Okay. And did she have an exchange with Mr. Mitchell or something like that, I think? Or is that what
I don't. Yeah. I mean, they definitely talked, and she told him, she said, I saw you guys here earlier, and I saw you get in the car and crank it. I saw you turn the lights on and off in the car. And she said that his face kind of went ghost white.
I gotcha.
And as though, I didn't know anybody saw me.
So then the cops show up, and they're out there doing cop things, securing the crime scene and all that, collecting evidence. They brought an arson dog to the scene. The Jackson Fire
and that's
Department.
Something else this eyewitness said as well, that they reeked of gasoline.
So she said that.
She said that prior to the cops getting there, the fire department getting there, the arson dog getting there.
Okay.
She says there was just a very, very strong smell on them of gasoline.
So you could just kind of when you've sprayed gasoline all over yourself with the, I know everybody's done that.
Gosh, I hate it when that happens.
And then you can tell, worst. You're like, man, I smell like gasoline. So kind of like that, like they're just.
Right. She's like doused in gasoline.
Okay. So it was just distinctive enough where she was like, dang, man, y'all smell like some gasoline.
And that probably contributed to the reason why she thought they had burned this car on purpose for insurance reasons.
I gotcha. So the cops show up. The fire department shows up. They've got an arson dog. And the arson dog eventually, Lindsay, and you know this, hits accelerant on both of them, Weghurst and Mitchell, which is
Right.
what that is the dog can say that, like, you can say the dog like hit an odor that's consistent with an accelerant. Obviously, the dog can't testify. It doesn't work.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I think the dog handler is now deceased as
Right.
well. That's the problem with these older cases, is
Mm.
that you find a lot of the people who worked on them aren't with us anymore.
But the civil, and we'll get into that later, the civil
Yeah.
deposition actually brings that testimony back, which is kind of interesting. That's what happened. So they were there. They're identified by this woman that Lindsay spoke to, that's in the original reports, and they get accelerant hit on them. Now they get arrested, I believe, that night. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And they're taken to jail, and I don't know. I think they were attempted to interview both of them. One of them spoke, one of them didn't, something like that. I can't.
Well, there's already an attorney waiting on them when they get to the jail, which I
Right.
thought was strange, because this is the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so they're out there, and that's and so that's where we are at this point in the whole case, where and things get even more crazy. So we're at a point where you got one witness who sees them out at the scene at the car, the Porsche, which is James Mitchell's Porsche, and Eddie Williams is in the Porsche. They eventually find out. Now, Eddie Williams is not only just in the Porsche, he's in the passenger seat of the Porsche. And when you look at the autopsy,
Because you said earlier he was burned alive, so we know that because,
well, there's an autopsy report, and the autopsy indicates that the primary cause of death was smoke inhalation. Contributory cause were essentially injuries to the back of his neck.
so it was like a blunt force trauma to his head.
According to Dr. Hain, who was the pathologist, the main pathologist at that time. And so Dr. Hain says that that's the contributory cause. So the way I'm reading it, and having read a lot of autopsy reports, it seems to me that he was beaten the back of the head or the neck with something, don't know what it was. Then he was placed in the car, whether he was conscious or unconscious. I assume he was unconscious at that point. And then
I have a feeling he may have been paralyzed. Now, I'm that's speculation.
I didn't
on
see
my
that
part.
in the autopsy. They didn't indicate that, but his body was burned pretty badly, so I'm not sure. But in any event, he probably was not conscious, because I imagine if he was, he would have, and God forbid if he was.
Well, they mentioned his brainstem. It mentions contusion,
Yeah.
and I think there was some damage to the brainstem. And so that was my initial thought, is I wonder if he was paralyzed because he didn't get out.
Yeah, he didn't get out. I mean, because you think the car's on, if you could get out and the car was on fire,
You would get out.
you're going to get out. And so he didn't get out, and he was burned alive, died of smoke inhalation, according to Dr. Hain, which is when you think about that kind of death, it's just horrific.
I can't imagine.
And so we got the scene. We got a guy that's in the passenger seat of a car that's not his, and he's got injuries to the back of his neck, and he dies of smoke inhalation. He's burned alive.
I think
how did we get here?
Well,
that's the first thing.
An important part too is that we've been told over and over that they hit another car.
Right.
That this car had hit another car, and maybe the impact is what could have caused Eddie's injury. Well, this eyewitness who I spoke to says there was no wreck. So that absolutely did not happen.
And not just the eyewitness, the former assistant DA that worked on the case said that. The one of the investigators has said that there was no wreck to this car. That never happened. So anybody thinks that, I know that's you said that's like the rumor that the car was not involved in the accident, according to the authorities that we spoke to about it.
Right.
So that was it looked like one, I think it was a prosecutor, somebody described it as it looked like somebody pushed the car up into another car.
Maybe that happened after the fact or at some point, but there was no wreck.
So I mean, and then here we are. So we got these guys where Eddie Williams is in James Mitchell's Porsche in the passenger seat with injuries to the back of his neck. He's burned alive, dies of smoke inhalation. They're identified by a witness that lives across the street. But then there's 4 alibi affidavits of employees of timeout that say they were never there. They were in the bar
the entire time,
1:20 and like 3:15ish in the morning. And those affidavits were obtained by James Mitchell's attorney's contract worker. Is that right?
Yes, who had just started doing very minimal work for him, by the way, and was also friends with all of these people.
Yeah, and the interesting, if you look at the affidavits, they're nearly, would you say nearly identical? Is that a good way to describe them?
Yes, because you were explaining to me, you looked at some of this stuff first, and you said, well, this couldn't be prosecuted because there's 4 alibi witness statements that they're signed affidavits. And then I look at them and I said, oh, this is BS. These are identical. Somebody told them exactly what to say, was my initial thought just from reading them.
Right. But then, of course, the point is, though, we could say that you can say that all day, but then you got to prove, you got to break them through. You can't just say, well, you can say, oh, this looks like BS. There's got to be a way to actually contradict what they're saying in there.
And that's harder to do because this eyewitness at the scene, they didn't take her to the station. They didn't give her a lineup.
Yep.
Now, she told me that she very clearly and affirmatively pointed the guys out
Mhm.
to the detectives when they show up on the scene, to the cops. She said that she didn't say, "Oh, these guys look like the ones that were here." She said, "These are the two I saw in front of the car before it exploded."
And of course, the police work at the time was not that detailed. If you look at the statements,
Obviously, it was not.
yeah, it wasn't. So you've got you got these alibi witnesses that, for all intents and purposes, they, I mean, look like, upstanding people. One of them is a manager of the bar. The other one's a bartender, is a waitress, or two waitresses. I mean, it wasn't, what is their motive to lie? Because that's the first thing you got to get past. Like, why would they lie for people that actually killed the other bartender that worked there? I mean, that's the question you got to ask
That
yourself.
they
Like,
supposedly loved.
yes, I mean, that's a hard thing to get past. I could see that, where that's difficult. Like, why would the four of them lie about this?
Now, one of the four is also Eddie's ex-fiance. I mean,
That's
you
right.
can't forget that part, because I think that matters.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, I mean, and so you got that's the problem with the case initially, is you got those affidavits. So all this stuff is worked up and taken to the County grand jury, and the case is what's called no billed, which means not indicted. So they're not indicted in the case at all. And based on, if you look at the letters from the assistant DAs at that time, it's because of these affidavits that they write specifically, they're trying to break through, but have not been successful at that point. That was the main primary reason why they did not indict them. Otherwise, they would have. Which is kind of what they're saying. But it was for these affidavits that, according to them, they didn't really believe, but they were trying to work on ways to not to break them up. And we see that later. So one of the people that gave an affidavit that Lindsay was talking about, that was Eddie Williams' ex-fiance, was
She's also hooking up with James Mitchell.
right. Yeah, that's true. She's later indicted by the Hinds County grand jury in 2003, right. And that isn't related to this investigation of the murder of Eddie Williams. And what she's indicted for is perjury, because apparently she went in front of the grand jury and allegedly lied about something related to this investigation. And what we've gathered is that was her relationship with a local hockey coach. And I don't know if that is what, like, where they're saying was that her whereabouts on that night. Well, we just don't know that.
Her whereabouts were supposed to be at timeout, because she's one of the witnesses who signed this affidavit.
Right.
So the only reason I can think of that they could get her on perjury about her sexual intercourse with this other guy,
yeah,
is if she says that he could vouch for her.
Mm-hmm.
Or if she was actually with him, maybe he said, no, she couldn't have been there and signed the affidavit because she was with me. She wasn't at timeout.
Well, I think the way I read this portions of it were that she was dishonest about a sexual relationship with this hockey coach in the indictment,
Mm-hmm.
that they had. And so what I'm assuming is that she said she wasn't because she had signed that affidavit. Now, that's my assumption. I don't know that to be true, but that seems to be
It seems to be the only thing that would really make them be able to get her with perjury on this case,
or anything that would be relevant for this
at all. Has something to do with her alibi. It's got to have something to do with that affidavit she signed.
Yeah, and then so they indicted her for perjury, but they never served the indictment on her, and then they later remanded, and we're not exactly sure why that was either. But that was another wrinkle in the whole thing. But so that was the first step, and then there's some others with the affidavits too, and other witnesses that have seen things, heard things, and all that kind of stuff. But we're going to get back to that on the next segment of the Clay Edwards Show with Sean and Lynn. We're back on the Clay Edwards Show here on this lovely Thursday morning in Flora, Mississippi, broadcasting you live with Sean Yurt-Cron. That's me, and Lindsay Beckham, talking about the 2002 murder of Eddie Williams. I'm sure if you've stayed tuned for this entire hour, you're probably getting worn out with it, but that's what we set up to talk to you about today. And anyway, so that's where we're going.
It doesn't seem like people are worn out with it. People seem to just really be incredibly interested in this case. And I mean, rightfully so, because there's no justice served here. Like we were talking about earlier, we've been talking about the alibis, the affidavits that were signed by 4 different people
that were claiming that James Mitchell and Matt Weghurst were in timeout between the hours of 1:20 and 3:15-ish the night of the murder, which means they couldn't have committed the murder. That's what the alibi.
Right. Of course, one of these was Eddie's ex-fiance, who's also kind of messing with James at this point, and that's his
Yeah, he
words.
says that in his deposition.
That's where I'm getting that. So straight from the horse's mouth there. But the alibis and the statements all look very, very similar. And she was indicted, this Lindsay May, his ex-fiance, who was one of the alibis. And I was just saying in the break, I think if you disprove her statement to me, it almost seems like it disproves all of them because they're so similar. You said that maybe wouldn't be the case because it could have been summarized for them, and then
Yeah.
they just had them sign it.
I mean, I think they look like they were summarized for them. I mean, that's the way I read them. I mean, you think the same thing. I think anybody
Well,
that
they were
reads them,
extremely similar.
yeah, they're really, really similar. So I think, I mean, just because one person says that they saw them and she's lying about seeing them doesn't necessarily mean the other person didn't see them. I mean, that could be two things could be true. I just say, I mean, they could be.
But they couldn't be in two places at one time. That can't be true.
No, absolutely not. No, they could not be. But I'm just saying that doesn't mean that the other person is, or and I think there's another scenario here that to me makes the most sense is that that they did show up at some point in timeout, like they were out there working in the car according to that witness, and then they weren't there. I mean, they could have just gone to timeout, had a few drinks, hung out, and then left, and then went back right before the thing. I mean, that's probably what happened in my
I mean,
mind.
that could be true. But the next hour, we're going to talk about all the things that have happened since we started talking about this case.
Yeah, this is where the harassments and this is where it gets wild. And
Yes.
We're gonna look forward to talking to you. I'll join us on the next hour starting around 8:07, and we'll be back on the Clay Edwards Show. We're back on the Clay Edwards Show.
Boom, shakalaka boom. I feel like you have to say that at the top of the air, at the top of the hour.
Every time. And obviously the award-winning podcaster is not here today, but
with his positive solution.
He is out shooting a movie with our friend State Representative Fred Shanks out there, and they're playing security detail for a Bitcoin millionaire in Vicksburg. Lindsay, I think that's right.
Yeah, being shot by, I think, Spencer Mills, who's also...
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, Urjavet. They are a sponsor of the station. Wow. And if you ever have problems with your animals after hours or on the weekends or holidays, Urjavet and Madison, that's your place to go.
He was so helpful to me about that. Remember when Ray's my dog.
Great
guy. My
guy.
dog's got seizures, y'all, and she's 5 now, but she started getting them when she was 2, and he had really good suggestions that my own vet didn't really even know. And
your own vet wouldn't even call you back.
Yeah, and his Facebook, it was just a Facebook exchange I was having with him. I was like, dude, thanks. I've been trying to because I'd gone to the Flowood emergency room and all that kind of stuff before, and trying to figure all this stuff out because you're so young, when it started.
Yeah.
And he really he's I've told everybody after that exchange, just on a Facebook exchange, I was like, go see Spencer Mills. I was like, that guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Like it was very so I think that's a great thing. So y'all go check them out for sure.
He loves animals. He has a monkey. I really want to meet his monkey at some point.
I mean, who doesn't love animals? They're better than people. I always when I met somebody that doesn't like dogs, I'm like, I obviously don't like them immediately. I'm like, something's wrong with you.
Y'all, Sean would literally, if he had the option, he would take years off my life and add them to his dog's life.
Possibly.
He would.
It could happen. It could happen.
He would. I have no doubt in my mind. No doubt.
You never know. That's a possibility. But anyway, we're back here again on the Clay Edwards Show while Clay and Fred are having a good time shooting a movie. We're talking about the 2002 murder of Eddie Williams, who was a bartender at Timeout and the Forum. That was another bar that existed back in those days. Eddie,
these were before my time. So.
Way before your time. I was 23 then, and I just started law school in August of 2002. And the simply case, Eddie ended up in the Porsche of a man named James Mitchell, who was a friend of his, in the passenger seat with injuries to the back of his neck and burned alive, died of smoke inhalation. There's conflicting stories about who did it, or well, not who did it, but like whether the people they accused of doing it did it at all. There's a witness that says she sees them. And then there was alibi witnesses at Timeout that were staff members that say that Matt Weghurst and James Mitchell were at that bar and could not have or the implication is could not have committed the murder of Eddie Williams. And that's where we are today. We recapped the whole first hour, and Lindsay told me we cannot recap again. I know there's a new audience.
We've got too much new stuff to talk about.
Yeah, we got the new stuff now for the people that are waiting for the new stuff. So
I will say, we have talked about this. We've done 2 prior shows. And if anybody is interested or cares or wants to go back and start from the beginning, September 15th and September 25th are the dates of the first 2 shows. If anybody wants to,
you can find them on my YouTube, and it's both sides of the bench, or Lindsay's YouTube, Lindsay Beckham Show on Facebook. It's all over the place.
Yeah,
easy to find. Or hit us up on Facebook, and we'll send you the links.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it happens. Matt Weghurst and James Mitchell get charged with this crime, and they are later presented to the Hinds County grand jury. The case is what's called no billed, which means
didn't
indict. So that's where we are at that point. So they're not indicted. They don't ever go to trial. That's the simple way to put it. And no one has ever charged in this crime.
It almost seems like they stopped looking. Like they knew who did it, and because they didn't have enough to indict. They just quit looking.
Yeah, I mean that happens a lot. I worked there for a long time. That happens quite a bit. Like, okay, well, we just didn't have enough. I mean, they don't go back, and I mean sometimes it happens, but just as honest as I could be, like, oh well, didn't have enough. I guess we'll stop. We got 15,000 other murders to worry about, and that's the real nature of it. Unfortunately,
and why waste your time looking for another suspect when you've got the right guys that you believe you
or
have
you
the
think
right
it's
guys.
good enough, or like you're like, well, we just didn't have enough evidence. Obviously, most of the time, what it is you generally have the right suspect. You just don't have enough evidence, which I don't think you should indict anybody unless you have enough evidence. Unfortunately, that happens too when you don't, and then you indict somebody, and then you have a crappy case that goes to trial. But
well, that's what the jury's for.
Well, no, I mean, I don't think you should go to trial on somebody if you don't have the proper evidence. I don't think that's right either. I think you need to have I think you need to be able to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt in your mind when you work the case up and take it to the grand jury.
But I think if this case had been worked up properly,
then you just don't. Then you can. There's no time limit on going to the grand jury. You can take it when you need to.
So it still could happen.
I mean, well, yeah, sure, but I'm talking about before they ever took them. They didn't have to just immediately take it. They could have tried to work on the alibi affidavits before they ever took it in there. Like that's something you don't have to just take it into the grand jury and then get it indicted, then work on it. I always think it's better to work on pre-indictment at that point before you just indict something that's just half put together. Like that's just a bad idea.
Well, I asked you a question and I said, looking at this, Sean, in your opinion, would you say there's corruption here or incompetence? And you said
100% incompetence. There wasn't that this I could tell you exactly why they didn't indict it, because there's 4 alibi affidavits, and what they said was, I mean, they put that before the grand jury. The grand jurors listened to that and said, well, there's not enough. It sounds like they're guilty, or well, I mean, but we usually need probable cause at that point. But they just said, okay, well, we're not going to indict it because of that. I mean, I'm assuming that's what the decision that the grand jury made, and makes total sense, but that would have been. So that's not, to me, that's just a unfortunate fact of the case. The where the competence lies, in my mind, was the beginning investigation of it, where Jackson Police Department, where the detective that I assume he took the clothing of James Mitchell and Matt Weghurst. As far as I know, I could be wrong, but we haven't seen anything where that clothing was actually tested for accelerant. And I think it's something that you definitely need to do. I don't think that they ran down enough other witnesses to disprove the alibis, which I think they probably could have, based on what we're talking to now. I mean, I think that they could have worked that end of the case up a lot harder pre-indictment. And if you had done that and you had said, okay, like and this is a hypothetical, one of the alibi affidavits, you find another witness that says, hey, no, I didn't see them in the bar. They were not there, and I'm there all the time. They were definitely not there between those hours. And then you find another witness that says that. I mean, what if you find 2?
And those people are out there.
Yeah. So like you find 2 witnesses that say that, if they exist, then that's going to hurt those alibi. And then you start talking to people like, hey, you signed this, but I mean, there's these 2 people that say that they definitely were not in there. What is up with that?
Then you indict one of the 4 for perjury.
And that happened, and this already happened in this case where one got indicted for perjury.
Yeah,
and we don't know that it's based on that alibi affidavit, but
I don't know what else it would be.
Right. Just the implication seems like it most likely is, but we just don't know for a fact. But anyway, so there was a lot of reasons, incompetent reasons to me, that this happened in the first place. Because I said this on Facebook yesterday. They were not some criminal masterminds. This is dumb luck on that they got away with this.
No, they're definitely not.
If they're guilty, I don't know that they're guilty, so I don't want to say that. If they did it, it's dumb luck. Now, and I'll say this, and I just want to segue into this point. So Matt Weghurst, who's the man that's deceased now, 2 weeks after the murder, he goes up to the Hinds County DA's office and signs a cooperation agreement with the assistant DA, and saying that, I'll give you evidence, don't know what that evidence is, in exchange for a sentencing recommendation. So 2 weeks, exactly 2 weeks to the day, he goes up there, him and his attorney, which at the time was John Coletti, who is a great attorney I know very well, signed a cooperation agreement, and in exchange for a recommendation. This is before it ever gets to the grand jury. This is the beginning stage of an the DA's office doesn't even have the file at this point.
But he goes home and his mind's turning.
Well,
and he's thinking, what if somebody flips on me before I flip on them?
Absolutely. I mean, I think what Coletti did was smart. Like, this guy hired me once he got arrested. I'm going to take him up there. They always say the first to the courthouse wins. That's kind of what we used to joke about when I was at the DA's office. The first guy that gets here to start ratting is going to win the prize. I mean, get a lesser sentence. And so that was really smart. And just for people that don't know, when a crime happens, somebody's arrested, the DA's office does not get the file the next day. Like, it's part of the police department's investigation. They work it up. It takes a while to get to the DA's office. It could take months. You never know. So this is 2 weeks. I guarantee you the murder file was not at the DA's office 2 weeks after the murder. I mean, they made the district attorney at that time, Faye Peterson, may have been made a prize because it seemed kind of high profile based upon the circumstances. But they were not, I'm sure, not done with their investigation in 2 weeks. But enough, what you're saying, Lindsay, that Weghurst was spinning in his mind saying, okay, I better get up there. And the one thing is, you don't go and sign a cooperation agreement unless you did it. Like, you don't, because why would you do that? Why do you want a sentencing recommendation if you didn't do anything? Like, why are you going to plead guilty to something you didn't do? The only other time that you do that, and I've had this happen where somebody is charged in a different crime, but they have evidence about another crime. Like, that happens, right? Where they sign a cooperation agreement in a case that they're not involved in, but they want help in their case. That happens quite a bit.
Still means you're guilty.
Yeah, of something, like, so, like, unless Matt Weghurst had another case that we don't know about, and that's what he really wanted help of, and he, had information about the murder of Eddie Williams. That doesn't seem like that's what happened here. No. So he was willing to testify or give evidence. I don't know against whom, in this case, 2 weeks after the murder. That is not something an innocent person does. That doesn't make any sense. They also don't
fail a lie detector test.
Well, I mean, you could fail. You could fail a lie detector test. People fail it. There's a fail rate. I mean, it's not admissible in court.
But we do have evidence that he had taken a lie detector test prior to this about a totally different subject and passed it just fine. So it's not an issue with him that he gets nervous just from taking a lie detector test and gets a false reading.
But there's still, I mean, I'm not, look, I think it's bad that you fail a lie. I'm not saying that, but it's clearly, it's not an admissible thing in court. So I think,
but if they're going to give him a deal, they want to make sure he's telling the truth.
And they did, and that's where Lindsay's going with that. So they gave him lie detector tests, 2 of them at the DA's office, as far as we can read, and he failed both of them. So, and that happens a lot. And what I mean by that is, witnesses or cooperating co-defendants will try to lie to make themselves seem less culpable, like, and to the DA, because I've been in the situation where I'm like, this is total, BS. And they're like, they want help, and then they have to go back and revise their story. That happens all the time.
But there's 4 questions that he failed that were very specific. And those 4 questions were: have you been truthful concerning the burning death of Eddie Williams? Did you see anyone pour gas on Eddie the night he burned? Did you yourself pour gas on Eddie the night he burned? And did you cause the death of Eddie Williams? Now, those 4 questions specifically, the lie detector shows that he was not being honest.
Okay. And we will get back and pick that up on the next segment of the Clay Edwards Show. Just tune in for that. See y'all. The Clay Edwards Show. Just tune in for that. And we're back on the Clay Edwards Show on this lovely Thursday, talking about the 2002 murder of Eddie Williams, Lindsay. And let's pick back up. Where were we at this, the last segment?
Well, we talked about how Matt goes in 2 weeks after all of this. He signs this agreement to, I guess, kind of flip.
Yeah, basically he's going to be a state's witness, right?
Put it in layman's terms.
Yeah, he's going to flip. As the movies say, he's turning state's evidence, which I've never actually said that in any context while I've done that, or I've got somebody to cooperate. But yes, he's flipping.
He fails 2 lie detector tests, and James fails 1 as well, even though that was a private one.
Private one.
But he also fails. And also it shows that he's being dishonest on those same 4 questions. Now, Sean, the reason that we even are able to see any of this or have this information is because they opened themselves up to discovery a few years later when they filed a civil suit. And I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah. So after their case is essentially dismissed by the grand jury, by the way, again, it still means it can be brought back up. It's just not indicted at that time. A few years later, the James Mitchell's criminal attorney decides to represent both of them in a civil suit against the city of Jackson. They sue for
millions.
They sue for the Jackson Police Department didn't have probable cause to arrest them for the crime, and that was the basis of the lawsuit in federal court. So many issues with this. A criminal. I mean, I'll try to explain this real quickly. A criminal defendant in a criminal case is not subject to the same kind of discovery rules that happen in a civil case. And what I mean by that is, like, you have a 5th Amendment right to not say anything if you're a criminal defendant. You have that right. But in a civil case, you get deposed, which you get a deposition when they ask you a lot of questions, and there's interrogatories, there's requests for productions, requests for admissions. There's a lot of information that if you're charged or were charged with murder, you probably don't want to answer those questions.
And that's
It's
why
not
we
a
have
good
the
idea.
information. That's how we're able to
Yeah.
see what we're seeing today.
Right.
But I mean, Sean, they had to do this
Mhm.
because their attorney knew about a secret file.
Yeah. So I'll just do real quick. So since we've been talking about this, I got a message from the civil attorney, criminal attorney, just kind of like harassing me, complaining about the whole situation and saying that, we were barking up the wrong tree and yada, 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 whatever. Didn't like the commentary that I called the filing civil case stupid, which I stand by that 100%. It's legal opinion commentary and I'm allowed to make it. So I got a First Amendment right here. I can do that. He doesn't like it. That's, his problem. My opinion and the opinion of every criminal practitioner, former prosecutor friend of mine, current prosecutors all agree this is the dumbest thing they've ever seen. And it's dumb for a lot of reasons. The this civil case, when there was this much evidence on the get-go against them, was stupid on that aspect, because then you open them up to civil discovery, like I was talking about before. The issues that their civil attorney has said on social media in response was that he was trying to prove their innocence. And this is after the grand jury has got rid of the case. So now he's trying to prove their innocence. And he did that by, he was trying to obtain JPD's hidden or secret file that would do this to that extent. And that's a claim that would exonerate them in some regard. So what you have to believe is this, is my point. If JPD is setting these guys up, right? Well, they're the unluckiest people I ever heard of, Lindsay. And let me tell you why. So if JPD has this conspiracy to set them up and let the real killer go, like that's apparently what they want to do, they fell into a great set of circumstances. They found two guys that were the last people ever seen with the victim alive, ever seen with him. The victim ends up in one of the suspects' car in the passenger seat, burned alive and beat in the back of the neck. I mean, that's, wow, that's what a coincidence. Then both suspects, that JPD's evil plan to set them up, have accelerant all over them. And then there's a witness that smells gasoline and identifies them, of course. Let's not forget all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then these two innocent guys, one of them, Matt Weghurst, is so innocent that he just decides to, well, I'm so innocent, I believe myself to maybe also be guilty, and signs a cooperation agreement 2 weeks after the murder because he's so innocent. And then they both fail lie detector tests. Well, I would say they're the unluckiest people I ever heard of if this was part of the JPD conspiracy to get them and they're actually innocent. And it really worked out well for JPD if that was the circumstances for them to get somebody, because all the worst coincidences happened to these innocent guys. Like that you could ever heard of. Like the worst coincidence ever happened to them. They're the unluckiest people I've heard of. Now it turned out well for them because they didn't get indicted in the end. And so that explanation to me doesn't make any sense, that they were trying to he was trying to uncover some hidden JPD file. And maybe he really believed that. I don't know. But to prove their innocence. But I'm like, God bless, they have the worst circumstances surrounding two innocent people that I've ever heard of.
Yeah, and I know you think that it was really stupid to
Mhm.
file the civil suit.
Mhm.
My opinion is it's disgusting
Mhm.
because, and this is my opinion,
Right.
after looking at the evidence that I have looked at,
Yep.
I believe these two guys are guilty as sin. And now they're trying to profit off of a murder of their friend.
Yeah, I mean, definitely can be viewed that way for sure. It's assuming they are guilty, and then you did that. It seems like it's I don't know if it's a money thing or is it a reputational thing. It could be, either one, both. Who knows? I think that's the but it's just. But the problem, again, I'll go back to, is that you're not cleared of the charges yet. You can be represented to the grand jury. There's no statute of limitations on murder. And so,
Especially capital murder.
so what a smart person would do would be like, I'm disappearing, and I'm never, that's
Or
what you
I'm
would
never
do.
talking about this
Yeah, I'm
ever
like, I'm getting
again.
out of here. I'm not soon. I'm not going to bring this up. But well, then so now you got this civil case with these two depositions. They deposed both of them in it that can be used by the prosecutors in a potential trial.
And
Now,
they
they can
don't
completely use them.
they don't ask for any discovery. So that he says that they're looking for this hidden
That's a
file
good
that's
point.
going to prove their innocence, but he doesn't even ask for any discovery.
Well, I think he sent interrogatories and requests for admissions and those kinds of written discovery, he never deposed anybody in the case. That I know, because the city of Jackson says that in one of their responses. He never deposed and never filed any motion to compel.
If you're looking for something that you think they have,
why don't you take any depositions?
Right. Why don't you do all the discovery you can possibly do? I mean, get all of it, everything you can get your hands on, and then say, see, they're innocent. If that existed, that's what you would have done.
Yeah, I think he attempted to get the district attorney's file because there's a response to that in there. So there were certain things he did attempt to get, but I do know for a fact that he didn't depose anybody according to the city of Jackson in their responses, which you think you would have if you were, like you're saying, trying to get this information to prove their innocence after they've already been dismissed by the grand jury, no billed by the grand jury, to find this hidden or secret file. And maybe he did try to find whatever he believed to be this hidden file that existed. And I think some of his commentary was based on the accelerant, which, I mean, I guess the legitimate part of that is, why didn't JPD test that? Like, that's a legitimate question. I wonder why they did not. My answer to that would be because, some detectives back in the day could be lazy. I experienced a lot of that in those days. Unfortunately, that thing happens. But nevertheless, the thing is, if JPD was trying to set them up, then they fell into a great circumstance to set somebody up. Like I said, two people that are the last people seen alive with the victim. The victim is burned alive, beaten in the back of the neck in your car, and he's sitting in the passenger seat, and you're identified by a witness across the street.
And you show up before the cops.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the unluckiest people in the world, except for they end up lucky in this situation because they didn't get indicted, that's why I said at the outset, this is like the dumbest crime I ever heard of in terms of like the execution of it. Because if the work was done correctly, they'd be in Parchman right now. Like, or on death row because it's capital murder. So like, I just don't, that's the only reason that didn't happen in my mind. Or if it was worked up correctly. Now, of course, there's the alibi witnesses, and could those have ever, and I don't know that, maybe they couldn't have, but it isn't.
But had they taken the eyewitness to the station and did a lineup and had her point these guys out, had they tested the clothing and it comes back full of accelerant because we know they reeked of gasoline and we know that the dog hit on it, then you would have those things. And once you start to disprove these alibis one by one, you have all this other evidence to fall back on.
But I mean, that's also, again, that goes back to that question. Can you disprove the alibis? Are they being truthful? Were they in the bar at the time? Is the witness that saw them didn't really see them? I mean, so that's where the reasonable doubt comes into it.
But here's the question, Sean. This eyewitness who sees them, she points him out to the detectives once the cops get there. And then all of a sudden they find out, okay, well, the guy that she said she saw here prior to the explosion, it happens to be his car too. I mean, like, come on.
No, I mean, I think the evidence leads you to believe that they're guilty. I don't know that again for a fact that they are. If I look at the evidence, that would be my opinion. But yeah, I mean, I think if it looks clear, like that's the way you would definitely view it, and just at all the totality of the circumstances is the best legal way to put it. It seems like that's
I think a jury would convict all day long.
If there was, I think they would if there wasn't alibi witnesses. If the alibi witnesses didn't exist, I think you have to do something with that. You have to. You can't just put those four witnesses on the stand and just say, okay, well, these are all the same. You got to come up with some reason they're lying. Something. You got four. It's not one. You got to come up with something. And I think so that could have happened. I just don't know that the Jackson Police Department actually tried to make it happen.
Yeah, I just think it could. I think they could have. I think if they had tried harder, they definitely could have.
I think they would have had to try harder. Unfortunately, they did it at the time. But we will get back in there. We got some more about Lindsay's interview with the witness that identified them at the scene she spoke to. It's really interesting stuff. So we'll talk about it on the next segment of the Clay Edwards Show. And we're back on the Clay Edwards Show here with Sean Yurtron, which is me, and Lindsay Beckham of the Lindsay Beckham Show fame, who will be on at 12 o'clock today with State Representative Nick Bain. Former, I'm sorry.
We don't know what he might be up to.
He shouldn't
next.
be former. He should have got reelected for standing his ground. I think that was a great thing. I think Nick's a good guy.
Fundraiser for Nick this evening. If anybody wants more information about that, I will be happy to share the details.
All right, there you go. So tune into that at 12. We are here on getting close to the last few segments on our 2002 murder of Eddie Williams, and we were just Lindsay, talking about the civil case?
Yes.
Okay, and so we'd finished up talking about that, and when I was trying to explain about how the James Mitchell's civil attorney and his criminal attorney was upset about our commentary, my commentary, that about the strategy of it, that it was stupid. I stand by that 100%. It was one of the worst legal strategies I've ever seen in terms of a case like this, doing that, opening yourself up to civil discovery. Because here, and I want to say this before we get into the next witness that you're going to talk about that you interviewed, in the event that this case were indicted and went to trial, that deposition is going to be used, mark my words, against, let's say James Mitchell's indicted, because Matt Workhurst can't be because he's not alive. That deposition is going to be used. He's almost precluded from taking the stand because he makes so lie detector tests are not normally admissible in court, generally never. But if he opens a door while he takes the stand, then I think it becomes, and I kind of consulted with some other prosecutors about this, becomes admissible at that point for impeachment evidence. That's his problem there. And there's several other things. There's a statement he says about sweating accelerant, but it was really, he said, I probably was sweating Jägermeister. He said, I'm sweating Jägermeister, which is sound flippant, right? It comes across like that. And that's going to be put on an overhead projector and shown to the jury. Like, it's things like that.
And he'll have to take the stand.
I mean, or, I don't know that he can now with that deposition. I think he's almost got to not take the stand because that ruined his ability to do so. In my opinion,
think that he would need to explain away some of the stuff that he said.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to explain. I would have to explain away a lot of things.
But he can't if he doesn't take the stand.
No, but I mean, you really, with that deposition is like a freaking gift from God to a prosecutor. I mean, anytime. I mean, you saw what I did with one as a defense attorney that I had that allocution. I mean, it's just, you got a written transcript. Even if somebody didn't lie, you can almost make them seem like they did. It's just it's the worst thing ever, like, for that thing. But if you're a prosecutor, it's a gift. I mean, it's a total gift. So that was, my thought process of why I think it's a bad strategy. If it never happens, then okay, well, that's fine. It never happens in the prosecution. But, and if it did, that deposition is going to be made an issue of. And I don't know I haven't gone through the written civil discovery either. I don't know whether nuggets are in there. You just never know. So we'll see from there. But Lindsay actually talked to the witness that identified them on the night of the murder of Eddie Williams, that saw them at the Porsche and then saw them come back later, about an hour later, before the police arrived. So Lindsay, I'm gonna let you tell everybody about that.
Yeah, so she is the one who actually called the police. She's the one who called 911 when she hears this explosion right outside of her home. And she's out there running around trying to let neighbors know, get anybody out of houses that could be in danger of catching fire. And then she sees the two guys that she has seen earlier show back up before the cops. Now, she says Matt looks like he could cry, and he's sitting in her driveway. And
this is before he knows that there's a body in the car?
This is before anybody knows there's a body in the car.
Or we assume they don't, or she didn't know they knew.
Well, I think he knew there was.
Yeah, we know. Yeah, they're assuming they knew it.
But she had no idea, and he looks like he's about to cry. And that was kind of weird to her, and it stuck out in her mind because, again, she doesn't know there's a body in the car.
Yeah.
And
because the car is just in flames. So.
Right, it's in flames. And they're just sitting there watching this car burn and waiting on the fire department to get there.
Yeah.
Now, Mitchell makes the comment to her that it's his car. But she said he looked like he didn't care one bit.
That's what she said?
Yes. Wow. He was not concerned about his car. His phone's also in the car. Now, I know phones weren't back then what they are today, but
yeah, the little in 2002, I remember having my little brick Nokia like everybody else did.
I didn't snake game.
I wasn't quite as attached to that as I am the iPhone.
Right.
Sure.
Exactly. But she also says that when the detectives and the cops show up, she told me she's witnessed a murder. I mean, she's witnessed a car wreck before and was asked more questions about that than she was about this murder. And I think an interesting point to all of this is we've seen this attorney who represented him on the civil suit. He's messaged both of us, and he has made a Facebook post about it. It's obvious he doesn't like us talking about this.
Sure. Yeah.
But she told me about some things that happened in the months after the murder that are just very strange. They would come to her house.
Who?
These suspects and their attorney.
Both of them, Matt and James.
Yes, and their attorney, and they would ask her over and over and tell her over and over that she needed to recant her story, that she had seen them. She found a dead cat at her door. They would sit outside of her house, in her driveway, across the street, in the cul-de-sac. And she would call and report all of this to JPD every single time there was an incident. And she said she got no help whatsoever. They never came to her house to check anything out. They never came and took a statement from her on these incidents.
Who would sit in front of her house?
The two suspects and their attorney.
Oh, okay.
She
Wow.
said for months this went on. She couldn't sleep. She was scared.
How many times did they go out there?
Multiple.
Really?
I mean, she didn't give me a number, but the way she described it, it was happening for months consistently.
Yeah, because I mean, and you've done this working for me. Like if you're a defense attorney, you do go interview witnesses. That's not uncommon. You got to, that's part of your due diligence on a case. So that, I mean, that part isn't, but
to over and over say you need to recant and you didn't see that, to tell somebody you didn't see that with your own two eyes.
Is that what she's saying? She said
that's what the attorney said to her. You need to recant. You did not see James Mitchell there.
Okay.
And she said, well, yes, I did. And then they told her, look, we will get a statement, an assigned affidavit from every person in that bar that night. And there are hundreds. This is what they told her. There are hundreds. And they will all say the same thing, that they were there at the bar the entire time people saw them. Yeah. She said, well, I don't know what to tell you, but they're lying. She was that confident that she saw these men and they couldn't possibly have been in two places at one time.
I gotcha. Okay. Wow. That's quite a revelation. I just, so I can't believe, so she told you about them they came back several times?
Yeah, multiple times, more than several. And they also tried to tell her that what you saw was us wreck, or was the car wreck. And she's like, no, I did not. She said that absolutely did not happen. That's a lie.
Wow, I wonder what they thought they were trying to accomplish by doing that. That's
I don't
weird.
know if they wanted to intimidate her, or they just knew her statements and her witness testimony could be very damning.
Yeah, I mean, when you're pointed out as being the person burning up your own car, it's kind of a problem. Yeah, that's not a good thing.
Reek of gasoline.
Yeah.
And she said they were sitting right here in my driveway. And she said you could smell them a mile away. It was very obvious that they had gasoline on them.
Wow, that's quite a revelation right there. Well, I didn't get a chance to talk to her. I know you talked to her. I talked to her nephew though while I was sick, so my question was not great. But he's a very nice man, and what he explained to me was that he didn't really identify anybody. He saw guys out there, is what he related to me, and that he did confirm what you're saying. He said they did come back and try to talk to them, the suspects, that they tried to come back and talk to them to his aunt's house on several occasions. He didn't tell me as far as I remember, he didn't tell me exactly what they said or anything, but they kept coming back to talk to them, or it happened more than once, is what he told me.
She seemed almost fearful that this has come back the spotlight and that people are talking about this again because of how badly they scared her back during this time.
I mean, that's that's horrible if that's the way she felt. I hate that.
I guess once the grand jury no-billed it is probably when they backed off. I mean, I'm speculating, but she said a few months. She said it went on for months, and so I'm guessing that once it was no-billed, maybe that's when they kind of backed off of her.
Okay. Yeah, just yeah, that's terrible. I could see why she'd feel that way. Unfortunately, but that's like I said, her nephew confirmed some of that, at least when he told me about at least that they were showing up. That's all he really said.
And again, he was a lot younger.
Yeah,
she was young, in her 20s. I think maybe 28 or so when this happened.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, so well now, I mean, and that's kind of where we are today on the thing. And I'll tell you one thing. I was telling Lindsay at the break. So we decided, when we started this, we kind of was approached us to bring it, kind of shed some light on it, talk about it on the radio, because we do radio and stuff. And of course, with my prosecution background and Lindsay's love for true crime, we're like, okay, this works out great. And I'd heard about the case for years. Well, then we've gotten so into it. And then with the kind of I guess when I'll say it this way, when people say, hey, stop talking about stuff and get kind of harassed, that's when I'm like, okay, now you've got my attention.
What are you hiding?
Yeah. So what I've done is I brought in some, what I like to call old school Hines County is what it is. Investigators from back in the day that know where the bodies are buried in this county.
But there are some people interested in this.
They are to work, And I'm sure we'll get some law enforcement guys will call me and ask who I'm talking about. And when I do, they're going to laugh because these guys are the ones that know where everything is.
You know
So,
how persistent I am
yeah.
when I get something in my head. And, I just want to let anybody listening know that you're not going to intimidate me. I think that this family deserves justice, and I'm not going to quit asking questions until we find out what happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's like their attorney threatened to file a bar complaint against me. Go ahead. I mean, because I gave legal opinion commentary, which every lawyer that's on any radio station or CNN is going to get. Is going to get a bar complaint for
Right.
talking about their opinion on a legal strategy. Okay, I
Sean,
mean,
legally, can he talk about this? Because he represented them. Can he legally talk about facts?
there's a rule that you're not supposed to divulge client information, part of the representation about a case. And I don't know the extent of that because I'm not. But yeah, there's something about like you're not supposed to.
Is that still a rule even if someone's deceased?
Yeah, I believe so. I'd have to.
That's
I'm
interesting.
not an expert on those, but yeah, there is something about the about discussing the case or whatever. I don't know exactly the extent of it, but I
Interesting.
don't look at it. But the yeah, I mean, I think that's giving legal opinion commentary is a very common thing. I'm not the first person to
Of
do
course.
that. And I mean, just because you don't like the way that somebody has critiqued your strategy, well, that's on you, man. I can't help that. I mean, I got a First Amendment right to say what I want, and that
Yeah.
I'm not defaming him personally. I don't know him at all, and I don't really care. So, but yeah, then
We got to take our last,
yeah, we're gonna take our break. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back, guys.
And we're back on the Clay Edwards Show with Lindsay Beckham and Sean Yurtron, and we are taking over the reins for the entire day. Thank you, Clay, for
Boom shakalaka booming.
enjoyed it. We hope all of you have enjoyed our 2-hour recount of the 2002 murder of Eddie Williams. We promised there's going to be way more.
We're not done. We're not done.
I was saying in the last segment, Lindsay, that initially we had just kind of decided to bring some light to this because some people had approached us about it. And the more we dug into and the more resistance we've gotten from certain parties has, sparked our interest, obviously, in things that we've uncovered. And so then I enlisted some former law enforcement help, like that I've known for a long time, we like to call old school Hinds County, that know where all the bodies are buried in this county. And if anybody can dig up something, they can. So I'm excited about what the results of that will be.
Yeah. And the amount of people who've just reached out to us.
Yeah.
Every single day, we both are getting messages about this.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody who remembers something could be the key to all of it.
Right.
So we definitely welcome anybody that has any comments or remembers anything or anything they could tell us.
Yeah, I think we've discussed several times over this show. The most difficult thing was the alibi affidavits. So if there's more witnesses out there that were at timeout that night, and a few have reached out to us, some didn't see them. So, talking about saw them earlier in the night, not that
We've
time.
talked to several people.
And remember being there and not seeing those guys, or if you did see them and you're like, no, they definitely didn't commit the murder. That's fair too. But
or if you saw them walk in trying to clean gasoline off themselves, definitely let us know that.
Yeah. Anything you might have seen there at that night, that'd be really helpful for everybody. So I'm sure, like I said, there's so many people. There's people that have reached out to me that have said that they just, kind of nervous about talking about it. There's just a lot of those people.
There's some things that we can't say because
there's more information that we've got that we just can't really say because I just can't confirm it. And if somebody's not going to go on record or whatever, then I'm not going to do that.
Right.
But but there's definitely the willingness to actually do it. So we'll see. But we've got, like I said, we've got old school Hinds County out there beating the streets. If I was, I'd be nervous, I guess I would say.
Yeah, some people should be nervous. Yep. They should.
Wouldn't be. So anyway, we will
I'll be back at 12.
Let's do it back here at 12 and I'll come back some other time. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks everybody.
Bye.
Have a good Thursday.